Fallout is set in a post-apocalyptic wasteland born from the aftermath of nuclear annihilation. It's a realm where factions vie for control amidst ruins, populated by raiders, mutants, sentient robots, and irradiated animals. In a world that's incredibly advanced in some ways and primitive in others, the men we're covering are some of the greatest products produced by that environment. We'll go over the mainline ones: the Sole Survivor, Courier, Chosen One, 76er, Lone Wanderer, and the Vault Dweller, the man at number 6. A resident of Vault 13, a young man with what you could call a good life in the Fallout verse, but one day the Vault's water purification ship broke down and the Vault Dweller, unlucky enough to draw the short straw, was put on a mission to find the replacement. He left the next day, taking his first steps into the waste of Southern California, one of the least experienced right out of the gate. On his journey to Vault 15, the only place he knows, he comes across shady sands, helping the former residents of Vault 15, taking out groups of raiders and animal problems. Eventually finding the vault in ruins, the water chip buried. Continuing his journey, the world grows tenfold, and doing jobs in Junktown, he ends up in the hub and eventually going to Necropolis, the land of the ghouls. In pursuit of Vault 12's water chip, he deals with the super mutant problem, retrieves it, and returns to the vault. And after everything, you are sent out once again by the Overseer to curb the mutant takeover. But these mutants aren't just the ones from 3 and 4, but crafted by the Master to be intelligent, cunning, and far more skilled in battle. Still having a cast of mutants similar to later games, some other enemies you might encounter are Deathclaws, Centaurs, and Rad Scorpions. But informed of the location of the mutant's origin by the Brotherhood after saving a young scribe, they have you conquering the glow. Then you attack Mariposa military base. Equipment-wise, you'd expect to have hardened power armor, heavy weapons, plasma guns, and maybe alien tech, going against hordes and hordes of mutants. Heavily equipped, fighting through to get to the Master, a pre-war Vault Dweller who fell into a vat of FEV, morphing into an intelligent biomass, Professor X with miniguns, who can control mutants by thought, but he's really just a giant turret system with mutants for backup. A relatively easy fight for this list if you even choose to fight him. You can talk him down and show him a flaw in philosophy, and he will self-destruct. In comparison to what the latter go through, that's why he's at number 6.
That crazy kid from Vault 101.
The Lone Wanderer, a boy born in Jefferson Memorial and raised in Vault 101, had a normal upbringing, which seems to not be a good thing for this list, but nonetheless probably fighting the rattlesnakes and figuring out how to shoot and learning from his doctor father simple things for when he's plunged into the capital wasteland. Chasing after his father, who leaves the vault after telling him, set out and finding out why. On the journey, he explores a settlement called Megaton that houses a nuke in the middle and some faces you might remember. You end up disarming it and helping the community, and we see this with completing the Wasteland Survival Guide that keeps expanding across the waste. You can help the ghouls at Tenpenny Tower or not, or even become one with the Brotherhood. You go everywhere you suspect he could have been, but eventually you find your father in a weird simulation of the past inside Vault 112, having to play along and outsmart the Overseer, Dr. Braun, until you can exit and meet your father and learn about the Gek's ability to revive environments post-war. And with a group of scientists, you're attempting to restore Project Purity, a water purification project to get free water to the people of the capital wasteland when attacked by the Enclave. Your father sacrifices himself in vain, so you go to obtain the Gek. To get it, you go through a camp of children who are somehow battling heavily armed super mutants. You fall to an Enclave trap in the end. Transported to Raven Rock, detained and interrogated by Colonel Autumn, you encounter the president there and unveil his scheme to contain the water with FEV. The Lone Wanderer manages to flee Raven Rock safely, returning the Gek to the Brotherhood Citadel. In between all this happening, you would have completed the DLCs. I won't go too deep, but skim over them. The Pit, the city of steel, a post-war Pittsburgh taken over by mass amounts of raiders led by Asher, a former Brotherhood member. No matter what the ending, you eviscerate hordes of raiders similar to Point Lookout. You fight mutated hillbillies with guns, but two hazardous environments to overcome nonetheless. But nothing compared to Operation Anchorage or Mothership Zeta. For Anchorage, it's a simulation of the liberation of Alaska, a full-blown war where you fight through waves of advanced Chinese soldiers, reclaiming key points and slaying General Jingwei. Still an easy speech check to convince him he lost, and he commits suicide, so take it or leave it. And one of his best showings was when he was abducted on the alien mothership Infested, fighting through some of the most dangerous weaponry in the franchise. You go through the ship and eradicate every alien. But his endgame would be sieging Jefferson Memorial with Liberty Prime and regaining Project Liberty. These are heavily trained soldiers with plasma weaponry and some of the most advanced power armor, and you just go through and clear them out. This is where the Lone Wanderer is going to gain his best possible equipment, something like Hellfire power armor, advanced plasma, Tesla cannons, and alien tech he got. With all that, then you take the fight to the Enclave and basically single-handedly wipe out arguably some of the best equipped people in the franchise. And then the Brotherhood has an orbital bombardment to destroy the Crawler, successfully successfully wiping out the Enclave, the man at number 5. The 76er is another vault dweller, Surprise, a young man or woman, descendant of some of America's finest, in a vault made with the goal to rebuild and recolonize Appalachia 20 years after the war. Known as Reclamation Day, but unlike the others, you're trained for this day, ready to face the most diverse wasteland any survivor has encountered, facing everything they've had to and more. With multiple Deathclaw-class enemies, cryptids, mutants, robots, and aliens, the 76er has a lot of options, but as you emerge, you begin to piece together the breakdown of post-war society, rebuilding what you can, fighting mutants and raiders alike, or dealing with the Scorch Plague brought by a Scorch Beast, infecting man or animal, turning them into feral monsters. You end this by visiting the laboratory where the responders have been developing a vaccine for the Scorch Plague, completing the inoculation, gathering intelligence on the Scorch Beast from records of the Brotherhood of Steel. And you help with the Enclave as a newly appointed Enclave general, launching a nuclear strike on the Scorch Beast and fighting and killing the Scorch Beast Queen, who's one of the more impressive single-entity feats for anyone on this list. You can also say the same for beating hordes of Wendigos, then Earl Williams, a three-headed abomination giant king Wendigo, or just breaking into vaults not meant to be broken into. And with the Brotherhood, you can also kill Dr. Blackborn, one of the most dangerous super mutant behemoths in the franchise, go to the pit, and you would have stuff on the tier of T65 power armor and a plasma caster, Gatlin plasma, or a flamer. If you did gameplay, the 76er beats everyone easily, but this is lore, so he's at number 4.
The Chosen One cannot be weak, or we are all doomed.
The grandson of the Vault Dweller, the first on the list to be born in the Waste, giving him that hardened layer and knowledge of weapons and human nature. He also drives a car eventually. Living in Arroyo, a dying village, he's put through a trial where he has to traverse a temple full of traps and foes to gain his grandfather's jumpsuit, proving himself to the elders. He sets off into the Waste to gain the Gek from Vault 13 right off the bat. He can easily beat Wastelanders and irradiated animals. You can help the people out in towns and do odd jobs in the Big Circle, or just figure out the feud between the ghouls and Vault City. From that, you find out the Vault 15 location, and on that journey, you first run into Frank Horrigan, a 12-foot-tall mutant cladded in power armor, a sign of the Enclave's might and what's to come. And this is where you start leveling up. You have a car, combat armor, a FAL, sniper, some laser weapons, and you end up going against the mutants and the heavily armed gangs of New Reno, and helping out Marcus and his mutants, gaining him as a companion. You end up exploring Vault 15 just for it to be infested with new cons. You have to massacre them and learn the Gek is gone, but Vault 13 could house one, so to the next dang vault, and that's the whole story with the intelligent Deathclaws inhabiting Vault. Then they get wiped out by Frank Corrigan, but you befriend one, get the Gek, and find out the Enclave has kidnapped the villagers. Then this leaves you with two goals, to save them and kill Frank Corrigan with the little group he's assembled. The next big deal would be infiltrating the Enclave, gaining their advanced power armor and Winchester P94 plasma rifle, going schizo mode, killing the commander, and easily being able to deal with super mutants. This is what leaves you to the Enclave oil rig, their main outpost. Traveling by boat, you attack in the dead of night, sieging their base and killing soldiers in advanced power armor Mark II, presumably taking it and carrying a YKB pulse rifle or a plasma gun. You set the rig up for destruction in an attempt to escape. You find the other Enclave soldiers and speech check them into helping you, but after running into Frank Corrigan, a 12-foot-tall cybernetic mutant super soldier with experimental power armor grafted onto his skin with a wrist-mounted man-sized blade and a massive prototype multi-shot plasma gun. He's the most powerful being in the Fallout franchise. I've even made a video on him. This isn't a fight you can take alone reasonably, so as a group you engage. The turret systems can attack you, or you can hack into them and use them on Frank. It's taking 6 of the best equipped people in the Wasteland in a Deathclaw, turning into one of the toughest battles in Fallout. You beat him and he self-destructs. The Chosen One continues his life in the Waste, living on as number 3.
Truth is, the game was rigged from the start.
A courier was shot in the head with a 9mm and left for dead, unable to deliver the platinum chip with a past shrouded in haze. I'll preface this by saying, I believe Ulysses, so with that, he's a man who delivered across the West Coast facing any potential threat. Eventually creating a new route through the Divide, a dangerous but promising piece of land where he helped build a new community. Unknowingly, he delivered a remote detonator for a nuclear silo, wreaking havoc on the town he built and turning it into one of the most hospitable places in the Wasteland. One day he wakes up with a fragmented memory, but even with this, compared to the rest on the list, he's the most prepared for what he has to face. The fact that you've made a name for yourself with the NCR and Legion before reaching the Strip indicates you did a lot after waking up. You could have been dealing with powder gangers at the NCR facility, helped the town of Prim establish law, let the ghouls fly, even mowing down the legions at Nipton, but you would eventually track down Benny to the tops, and let's be real, you kill him and his lackeys. Somewhere within this period, the DLCs happen. Firstly, the Sierra Madre, a casino surrounded by deadly toxins. Father Elijah tricks you, knocks you out, takes takes everything and puts a bomb collar around your neck, making you fight the ghoul people and the holograms of the city. With a storyline of outsmarting Elijah and killing him, then going into Honest Hearts, Zion National Park, the mutated wilderness of Utah, thrown into a tribal war between multiple factions, vying for control, fighting the natives and beasts. You would fight with the Sorrow and Joshua Graham to put an end to the White Legs as they attempt to join the Legion by wiping out everyone else. Moving to the Big Empty, a pre-war defense contractor facility that has produced some of the most advanced tech the world has ever seen, run by brains and vats with a tyrannical overlord who replaces your brain, spine, heart, and basically cyborging you, enhancing every aspect of the courier. It's a crater full of lobotomites and every type of robot you could think of, kitted out just to kill you. Fighting through this, you overcome the think tank and eventually having them work under you, helping the wasteland. Finally, Lonesome Road, crossing the divide to fight a man whose steps you've walked in, but getting to him is a challenging task, forcing you to fight through Deathclaws and Tunnelers, creatures shown to be able to tear down Deathclaws and overtake their territory. With marked men swarming the divide, Legion and NCR soldiers, now ghouls, left to fester after the nukes went off with some of the best equipment in the waste, taking it out on anything that they can find. You're probably forced to fight and kill Ulysses, preventing the nukes from wreaking havoc on the Mojave, and on the way out, everyone in the divide cowers in your presence. This is where you would go on to choose a faction and fight the Battle of Hoover Dam, and depending on what you've done, having varying levels of helps from the Enclave, Brotherhood, and Boomers. Well equipped for the final battle, traditionally shown with his Ranger combat armor and anti-material rifle or tri-beam, while we don't know who he fought for, we can say it's most likely the NCR or Mr. House, beating the Legion's invasion into the Mojave and the dam and killing Legislaniat, the monster of the East, securing his spot as number 2.
This time I'm ready, because I know war.
War never changes.
The sole survivor is a man who narrowly escapes the nukes with his family and was frozen in cryogenics just to watch them ripped from him again, starting another missing family storyline. You get out into the Commonwealth and start searching for your son. And the fact that you served in Anchorage and are good with guns and have power armor and combat knowledge right off the bat is a huge advantage when leaving Vault 111. Early on, killing the Raiders and Deathclaw, attempting to end Preston Garvey, the head of the remaining Minutemen, the faction you will eventually lead, helping them take back land in the Commonwealth and reestablish normalcy, eventually beating a damn Mirelurk Queen. Not too long after fighting through mutants and raiders and helping dance at the police station and becoming a Brotherhood initiate, you get to Diamond City, the first real community you come across. At the very least, while there, you find out about Nick Valentine held captive at Vault 14, wiping out the mobsters, hoping to gain info. This is what leads you to finding out clues about a man named Kellogg, a cybernetic hitman who's lived for 108 years, an enforcer for the She and eventually the Institute after totally mogging them and forcing them to contract him. You track him down to Fort Hagen and fight him through hundreds of Gen 1 synths, all with laser weapons, something even he's highly impressed by. And after a really hard fight, you eventually kill him, changing the course of the Commonwealth. Once you step outside, the story really starts with the Predwin arriving, the main force of the Brotherhood of Steel, the faction I believe you join. But before continuing, this is probably around the time you would have done Nuka World and Far Harbor, one where you have to psyop vying raider factions fighting for control of an old amusement park, killing them and freeing the slaves they hold. And Far Harbor that takes place on the coast of Maine, housing the worst crustaceans to fight against, things that would tear apart most creatures in the waste. I can't even theorize the ending. It's most likely Dima working with the harbor since he has such a parasitic relationship with the town, and obviously destroying the children of Adam and the automatons and their robots. Okay, got that. Institute is behind the kidnapping, but this is a tough place to break into. You resort to finding a former scientist you track down into the glowing sea, ground zero for the nukes in the Commonwealth. Trudging through the irradiated storms and Deathclaws and Rad Scorpions, finding him in a cave, making a deal to turn this now mutant into a man again for teleporter schematics. But needing a Courser chip, you track one down. These aren't just normal synths. Kellogg explicitly states Coursers are stronger, faster, and smarter than humans, the John Wicks of the Institute. Fighting through hordes of gunners, you reach the Courser and slay him, building the teleporter and finding Sean. Not the child you wanted, but an old man stuck in his ways and black-pilled on humanity. This is where the new show probably confirms it's either the Brotherhood or the Minutemen, and let's Occam's razor that. It's probably the Brotherhood with Liberty Prime. You help build, and you're equipped with at least XO1 power armor, Gauss rifles, plasma weapons, then you siege the Institute, completely wiping them out, and instilling him at the #1 spot. And that's the list. Comment, like, and subscribe. Bye-bye.